Hi, I'm TJ Gennaro. I'm doing my presentation on Philomena Gennaro. She was an amateur artist and also my grandmother. She was born on November 25th, 1914 and died on November 7th, 1979. She lived in Hazleton for most of her life. Her father was an Italian immigrant who came to the United States at age 11 by himself. She was a nurse and she studied at the University of Pennsylvania. And I asked my dad how she afforded that. We don't come from money necessarily. And he said, basically, it wasn't as expensive back then as it is now. She received very little formal art training. She was a member of the Hazleton Art League, where she displayed her work and won several awards. And I'll talk about at least one of the awards that she won in a little bit. She painted mainly with oil paints. This is an example of an oil paint done on canvas, and most of her work is oil on canvas. This is an impressionistic, influenced by Impressionism, which I'll also get into. This is just a picture, that's her beneath the blue arrow, her family, pretty big family. This is a picture of her with my grandfather and their 4 kids. This is a picture of my grandfather and my grandmother actually holding me as an infant. And I'm like crying, unfortunately, and she doesn't look too happy, but hopefully this presentation will make her a little happier about that, even though she's in heaven. So, in general, she has a progression of her artwork from natural or realistic to abstract. On the left is a naturalism, which just means the painting doesn't have much, not much interpretation into the painting. It's basically what you see. It's like a photograph. That's naturalism. And it's also considered just realistic. There's also a realism movement, but that's something separate. And on the right is a stylized flower, can be seen as, with like geometric designs to make up the center of the flower. So basically, earlier in her career, she did natural, realistic, and later abstract, but also in the middle, she did Impressionism, which is started by Paul Cézanne. This is actually a pencil drawing. This is one of the first drawings she did, and it was actually for my grandfather around the time when they were getting married. And it's colored pencil on paper. And one thing to note is that the paper is not faded, it's brown. I'm sorry, it doesn't get brown, so it means it's acid-free paper. The next one is faded, likely to have been drawn on white paper, but done with pencil and graphite, just a pencil probably. Guitar, which kind of looks upside down for those of you who play guitar. It is somewhat upside down, but my aunt told me that it's kind of inspired by another work of art. This one she made for my grandfather. He was an avid outdoorsman. You see the waterfall, an autumn type scene. This is my personal favorite. It's actually in my collection. Like I have 3 of her paintings, and I'll tell you which 3 I have. This is one of them. You can see like the thickness, or what they call in art, the texture of the painting. It means you put a lot of heavy paint on there, and it makes it look more realistic, more like a real flower. And this picture kind of exemplifies a little bit more of the texture involved in this piece. Now, as I mentioned, Impressionism was started by Paul Cézanne. This is a painting entitled Apples and Biscuits. I guess those are actually biscuits, and not oranges. They look like oranges, but he was the founder, in essence, of the Impressionism movement, which was a new way to look at color and light. It was a new form of art at the time. This was like the late 1800s, early 1900s. This is the painting I had in the beginning. As you can see, there's a water wheel. Now, I don't really see a body of water, a stream or anything, but within the family, we call it the water wheel. impressionistic in nature. Here's one where she won an award at the Hazleton Art League in 1969. There's a seal there that you can read, hopefully. And these are sea oats in the foreground, as I was told by my dad. And also I had to ask my aunt what exactly these things are. I wasn't sure if it was a herd of animals or just, the profile of the sea oats. But she told me actually it's houses down by the water. You can see the horizon of the water. She won an award for this landscape. That's a bigger picture of it. This is a nude painting, painting of a nude done in pastels in shallow water. It's a pastel artwork. This one is the flowers I showed originally. It's a floral arrangement. I'm not sure exactly if this was meant to look 3D, but it looks kind of flat. I know she could do perspective, so I think maybe it was done on purpose. I'm not sure. But this is impressionistic, I would say. Nice, bright, vivid colors, and you can see a reflection. Looks like it might have been done on like a marble table. You can see the reflection of the flowers off that marble. This one is oil paint done on masonite board. It is, at least from what I understand, it's a board that has a texture much like canvas has a texture. And on a future painting, you can see actually some of that texture coming through the paint. But this is an Italian town, like a port town. And I actually saw this one for the first time like 2 weeks ago. My cousin has this. And that's actually a cross on top. That's a church, little houses and boats. And this is impressionistic in style, the water. It's not perfectly naturalistic and not excessively realistic, but it's impressionistic. This is one I have in my collection. It was in my grandfather's kitchen for many years. And it's 2 bottles. I was always intrigued by it. On the right, it looks a bit like a shadow on the right side of the bottles. And yet, it also looks like it's part of a form of the green bottle. These are harlequins. On the right is my grandmother's painting of a harlequin. On the left is Pablo Picasso's. It was something that Picasso was doing for a while, and my grandmother decided to try to do her own thing, yet be influenced by that. And one of the characteristics is that the diamond-shaped patterns in the clothing. Here's a clown she did with a saxophone and a duck, a goose. I'm not too sure. It's an interesting painting. This one is the only one that I know of for sure that has a title, and it's Eternal Flight. And it's difficult to discern where exactly these birds are going. It's a bit abstract. You can see, in addition to the green leaves, there are aqua leaves, which is interesting. And it's like a branch that comes off of the main branch. Oil on masonite. This is oil paint done on 2 different panels put together. It's a seaport scene with a stone wall. Also a family favorite. My grandfather had this in his living room. This one I saw, again, 2 weeks ago, and I saw it in person. It's almost as big as it looks here. It almost looks underwater, or that can be interpreted as being the sky with clouds up there. But they're butterflies, and I think this is also one of my favorites. This is a bit of a departure from the norm that she does. This one has dark colors. She typically used to paint in lighter colors and pastel. This one has dark cityscape, dark blue and blacks. It was suggested that this could be Venice with gondolas, those boats that you see. This one is a mixed media. This is wine bottles, a mixed media because it's painted and then actual labels from wine bottles are pasted on here. So it's two or more mediums or media, paper and paint. This one is representative of the crucifixion, and you can see this would be the cross, and this would be Christ's figure, and also notable, which I never had the opportunity to ask why, but also notable is a double figure. Now, Impressionism and Cubism. On the left is Paul Cézanne. This is a portrait of Ambroise Vollard. And on the right, this was done, the Impressionism by Paul Cézanne was done around the 1890s. And around the early 1900s, of 1909, Pablo Picasso did Cubism, which is, from my interpretation, his version of this painting. As you can see, Cubism has some distortion. And my grandmother also dabbled in some Cubism as well, as you can see in this painting. Not exactly the same style, but it's the same idea. It can be seen, perhaps, an eye here, a nose, and a mouth. Perhaps it's a face. And another thing she did was she took a palette knife, dipped it in like maybe dark blue or black paint, and these like scratch type marks. They're not actually scratches, it's just thin lines of paint used to accentuate and create more interest in the painting. Oh, by the way, that was Cubist. And this is Cubist in style. It's a cityscape in the daytime. You see the buildings, and nice highlights from the light, and then shadows here. Here's a pastel painting, which may suggest or represent like a town up on a hillside with streams going through and a lake. This one was designed specifically for my aunt's house because you can see the brick here, and it's red to kind of match and complement the brick, as is the following. This is maybe a little more obvious. Maybe not. It's abstract. And it's kind of like a brick design. This one is human forms in an abstract painting, oil on canvas. This is a vertically oriented abstract painting with trees. Well, perhaps it's a tree. To me it looks like a telephone pole, but my dad says it's probably a tree, so we'll go with that. This is what we refer to as the Asian painting. It looks Japanese, like I believe the word is a pagoda, little outdoor rooms. And this was the painting of a flower, which was abstract. And it, like I said, has the geometric in the middle, yet it's still a flower from an abstract standpoint. Thank you.